This is the new Insta360 X5. It's supposed to be by far the best 360 camera you can buy right now. This is mainly due to 50 new and unique features that the Insta360 X5 comes with, and which should set it apart from the competition and of course the X4. Today I'm going to show you 3 things. What are these features? How do they work? And how good is the X5 really? But let's take a look at some shots. I'll show you as many different shots as possible today, so you can form your own opinion. And yes, the X5 was provided to me by Insta360. But this video does not include any additional paid sponsorship. So what are the 50 new features of the X5? The first and perhaps most important innovation and improvement of the X5 are the new sensors. Because as you know, a 360 camera doesn't just have one sensor, but 2. And at 1/1.28 inches, these are significantly larger than the sensors of the X4. A larger sensor is not the only factor when it comes to image quality, but it's a very important one. A larger sensor is still decisive for the image quality when shooting in low light. The best image processing is not able to compensate for the extra light from a larger sensor, but we will come to a special function for low light in a moment. And one thing should also be clear: a larger sensor also has advantages in good lighting conditions. It normally delivers better colors, has a better dynamic range, the images have more detail, and the dark areas of the image show less image noise. The image is therefore cleaner. Much of this is not immediately noticeable at first glance. Here you can see a comparison with the Insta360 X4 in very good lighting conditions. And apart from slight differences in the colors, I only noticed many of the differences mentioned over time or when zoomed in. And I think that the software compensates for many weaknesses when reframing. I therefore have the impression that the differences in image quality in single lens mode are perhaps even greater than in 360 mode. But not only that, they also have an effect on all other shooting modes. This means not only better image quality in 360 mode and single lens mode, but also better hyperlapses or better shots in Me mode. And, in my opinion, very important for an action camera, and therefore a separate point, the X5 now finally takes significantly better slow motion shots at up to 120 frames per second. Previously, the limit for 360 slow motion recordings was 4K and 100 frames per second. Although you still have to reduce the resolution to 4K on the X5 for real slow motion recordings, the recordings now look visibly better and are absolutely usable. In theory, 4K would not be so low, but a 360 recording must of course still be reframed. As a result, the recording has a significantly lower resolution after reframing. However, the new sensors now help to achieve significantly better image quality when taking slow motion shots. The shots are more detailed and have less image noise. They can therefore also be used for higher quality productions. Earlier I said that the image sensors only make up part of the image quality. Nowadays, processing by internal image processors has become increasingly important, and processing more image information naturally requires more computing power. And that brings us to our third new feature of the X5. The X5 not only has faster image processors, but according to Insta360, 3 new AI chips. And this of course has an effect on the image quality. Don't forget that 2 relatively large sensors have to be read out at the same time. This requires a relatively large amount of computing power. We will see in a moment what effects this has on battery life and possible overheating. Because if normal action cameras already have difficulties with high-resolution recordings from a single sensor, then you can imagine the demands this places on a compact camera with 2 sensors. The new chips, and above all the larger sensors, enable a feature that is certainly one of the most important new features of the X5, a dedicated pure video mode for low light. There is already a dedicated pure video mode on the Ace Pro 2 and a super night mode on the DJI Action 5 for better shots in low light conditions. But this is completely new for a 360 camera. And as you can see, the shots in low light look great, significantly better than those of the X4, but also visibly better than low light shots from a standard action camera like the GoPro Hero 13. In fact, both cameras, the X4 and the Hero 13, have significantly smaller sensors than the X5. And that's the way it is with cameras. While a smaller sensor is not so noticeable in good lighting conditions, the less light there is, the more noticeable the difference. This makes the new pure video mode and the low light performance one of the most important selling points for the X5. I'm really surprised and impressed by the good shots you can now take in low light with a 360 camera. Incidentally, the X5's pure video mode has another special strength. Whereas with the X4 and also with the Hero 13, you have to reduce the resolution to get better image quality in low light, this is not the case with the X5. In pure video mode, you can easily shoot in 8K and benefit from the higher resolution even in low light. For me, the new pure video mode is perhaps the best new feature of the X5. A detailed comparison between the X5 and the X4 will follow soon. The next improvement of the X5 also has to do with image quality. As mentioned earlier, the new sensors have an impact on all shooting modes, including the HDR mode. But there are a number of other innovations here. While the active HDR mode on the X4 is still a separate recording mode, HDR on the X5 has been integrated into the standard video mode, similar to the Ace Pro and the Ace Pro 2. It should be noted, however, that you still have to reduce the resolution to 5.7K for HDR. But, and this is certainly important for many, you can now shoot in HDR at up to 60 frames per second. The limit for HDR is therefore 5.7K 60. HDR improves the dynamic range in shots with difficult lighting conditions. That is, when there are very bright and very dark areas in the same image. Many people think that HDR would lead to unrealistic results and create an artificial HDR look. And this is often true. But I think Insta360 has mastered this well, and the HDR shots have enough contrast and don't look unnatural. But if you still think that HDR would lead to unnatural results, you can easily deactivate the feature here above. The HDR feature is automatically switched off when shooting in 8K. And can you see that? You can start a shot with the X5 by turning the camera back and forth twice with the stick. This is called twist to shoot. This way you can quickly and easily start a recording or take a photo when using the X5 on a stick. Simply twist backwards and forwards twice to start shooting. You must activate this function here in the settings. Of course, the X5 also supports voice control and gesture control. Now we've talked a lot about image quality, and this is also the most important improvement on the X5. Because as you can see, the body of the X5 looks almost identical to the body of the X4. From the outside, the camera has hardly changed. But the Insta360 X5 has 9 other improvements and new features that might be even more important to some than the better image quality. I've taken thousands of shots with 360 cameras and have never actually broken one. But I understand if there are users who say that the 360 camera is too fragile for real action shots. The lenses protrude clearly and are of course a weak point. If the camera falls, it's very easy for it to hit the lens and damage it. This can lead to a total loss of this relatively expensive camera. I have the Essentials bundle here. This contains lens cards, but these are not an option for me, simply because they can lead to unsightly lens flares. To make the X5 a real action camera, there are therefore 2 improvements. The material of the lenses has been significantly reinforced, and I was able to test this immediately, because I bumped the X5 against the wall the first time I used it. But even more importantly, and this is perhaps the second really strong selling point for the X5, it's the first 360 camera where you can change the lens cover yourself. So if you damage a lens, you can buy this replacement kit and replace the lens yourself. And it's not complicated at all. To do this, place the X5 on a flat surface and position this lens grip tool so that the white dot on the underside of the lens and the orange dot on the tool meet. Now turn the lens grip tool 2 complete turns counterclockwise. This will allow you to remove the lens ring. You can now use this removal tool to carefully remove the lens cover. Now you can use the blower to remove any dust or dirt. Use the brush and the cleaning wipe to remove further dirt and dry the lens with the cloth. Take the new lens cover with the suction cup and install it. Now screw the lens ring back in with the lens grip tool and remove the suction cup. And that's it. If you replace the lens cover yourself, it will of course cost significantly less than sending the camera in for repair. You also don't have to do without your camera during that time. I think the protruding lenses have put many action sports enthusiasts off using a 360 camera in the past. This should now change. Apart from the perhaps somewhat delicate body, perhaps the biggest argument against a 360 camera so far is reframing. Yes, of course, if you don't feel like reframing, you can also use the X5 in single lens mode and shoot at up to 4K 60. But you don't need a 360 camera for that. In single lens mode you can't reframe the shots as you wish, and you also don't get the invisible selfie stick effect. By the way, I took all these shots with this 114cm long invisible selfie stick from Insta360. If you want to get the 360 camera, this is the stick I would recommend to start with. It's long when extended and very small when collapsed. The perfect selfie stick for the X5. And as you can see, you can't see the stick when you take the shots. That's the magic of a 360 shot, which unfortunately you usually have to manually edit and reframe to get a standard video recording. To relieve you of this work, the X5 has a new recording mode, the InstaFrame mode. In this mode, you get 2 clips as a result of your recording. A usual 360 clip that you can still reframe, and a flat, So standard video clip. For this second clip, you can decide whether you want to choose the framing manually or whether the camera automatically keeps you in the center of the frame. You have the choice between selfie view or custom view. If you tap on custom view, you can determine the field of view and the framing. Up here, you have the choice between various predefined perspectives. For example, rear view, front view, and so on. In this shot here, for example, I didn't select the framing myself. It was done automatically by the camera. This means I took it with selfie view. You can select a resolution for both clips in the settings. Of course, it's extreme what the X5 has to achieve for this shot, which is why the resolution is limited. 5.7K plus for the 360 clip and 1080 for the reframed flat clip. So the flat clip is therefore mainly suitable for sharing immediately via social media. And even though the body looks almost identical to that of the X4, it has a number of other improvements. You may know that a wind guard was installed in the Ace Pro 2 to improve audio quality and reduce wind noise. And this now also applies to the X5. The X5 also has a new wind guard on the front, which does exactly what it's supposed to do, greatly reduce wind noise. The X5 has a new wind guard on the front. This is designed to prevent annoying wind noise. So let's listen if it really makes a difference. There is also a dedicated recording mode that emphasizes the voice when vlogging. And of course, you can still connect external microphones if required. With the Ace Pro 2, you have to remove the wind guard if you want to use the camera in water. This is not the case with the X5. The wind guard cannot be removed and the X5 can now be used underwater at up to 15 meters without a dive case. And this is also an improvement. For most underwater users, 15 meters is perfectly sufficient. Although you should know that you will need to use a dive case underwater if you want to use the camera in 360 mode. This also applies to the X5. Without a dive case, you can only use the camera in single lens mode, as lens stitching does not work without a special dive case. And there is another change to the hardware. The X5 has a more powerful battery with 2400 mAh. But that's not all. It also comes with an endurance mode, which extends battery life by disabling certain functions in the background. I did a test here in standard mode, so not in endurance mode, in the setting of 8K 30. In this setting, the X5 was able to shoot for 1 hour and 27 minutes. That's 15 minutes more than the X4. But two things are perhaps even more important. Only the X5 has the endurance mode, in which it filmed for exactly 3 hours in 5K 30 in my test. Unfortunately, and this also has to be said, the endurance mode is not available in 8K. And the second thing is, the X5 charges extremely quickly. In 20 minutes, about 80% of the battery. Yes, of course, I also tested overheating. An improvement in overheating performance was also achieved with the X5. Here in the office at around 22 degrees Celsius, the X5 switched off in 8K 30 after 1 hour and 19 minutes due to overheating. That's also about 15 minutes longer than the X4. In 5.7K, the X5 does not overheat in these conditions and shoots until the battery is empty. However, it's also clear that these conditions are not realistic for an action camera, because in normal use there will often be wind, and then there are no problems with overheating even when shooting at 8K. There is still one important problem for any 360 camera to solve: reframing a 360 shot. And I have to admit that Insta360 has made an effort to make this as easy as possible. Apart from the InstaFrame mode, the app has also been greatly revised for this purpose. It recognizes the subjects in the clips, which are now shown in the thumbnails, so that you can find the right clip more quickly here in the overview. But the best new feature is this one. You select a clip and can choose the perspective here. When you select selfie view, the clip is briefly analyzed, the subject is selected, and the whole clip is reframed accordingly. The result is similar to Deep Track, but with a single tap and much faster. Of course, there is still a tracking function, or you can use keyframes to dynamically adjust the framing. But if you just want to quickly center the subject, it couldn't be easier. And if you want, you can remove the fisheye effect of the lens with another tap here on the left. Of course, the app has several other editing functions, but the simple choice of perspective is the coolest new feature for me. It's clear that these new reframing features also work with shots from the X4, and the same applies to the new Insta360 Plus cloud service. This is of course also compatible with the X5. When you connect the X5 for charging, it automatically uploads all files to the cloud via Wi-Fi. These are then stored in the cloud, and you can edit and reframe them directly via the cloud without even connecting your smartphone to the X5. And of course, you can also share the recordings with friends via the cloud. I have to say, this service saved me when creating this video, because that SanDisk SSD hard drive that all my X5 footage was on suddenly stopped working, even though it's only a year old. Insta360 Plus is based on a subscription and costs $110 per year for 2 terabytes. And before we talk about the price of the camera itself, I'd like to show you one more thing. There are also a few new accessories for the launch of the X5. With this mount here, you can attach the X5 horizontally, for example to a chest mount. Then there is a new magnetic mount. But my favorite new mount is this selfie stick with an integrated bullet time function. You can use it like a normal selfie stick, but you can also extend it slightly and fold it to the side, and then have 3 adjustment options to take a bullet time shot at different angles. An absolutely cool combination, also because the stick is quite long. So what does the Insta360 X5 cost? The X5 is available in different bundles. The standard bundle costs $550, but I can offer you something very special. If you use the link in the description, you will also receive a free gift in the first 7 days after release, and for a limited number, this will even be an extremely useful lens replacement kit, which otherwise costs $35. So would I recommend the X5? Absolutely. The X5 is a great 360 camera, the best you can buy right now. Or how do you see it? Does the X5 meet your expectations? And is it worth upgrading from the X4? That depends on how important the new features are to you, and especially whether you also want to use your 360 camera in poor lighting conditions. Then the X5 is certainly a great choice. A detailed comparison with the X4 will follow soon. So stay tuned, give me a like as feedback if the video was interesting for you, and see you next time.